Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to my channel. Today I get to do something I love doing. I get to show you 7 of my top favorite features introduced across the Adobe Photography platform for February 2025. That's right, this week, and it coincided with Adobe Max Japan, so it was like a Wednesday at a weird time for us in the US. That Adobe released new updates to Lightroom, Lightroom Classic, Lightroom on mobile, Lightroom on web, Lightroom on mobile Android. So basically, and of course Camera Raw. So updates across the board for photographers. Now, let me dive into, there's more than 7, but I'm going to show you my favorite 7. I'm going to talk about one that's not on the list, but just as a reminder that one of the first ones that's kind of a bonus is that for Lightroom Classic users, the team is always working on performance. We hear you loud and clear, and this update's no different, so you should expect to see it perform better than it did in the previous version. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into number 1. Number 1's a big one. I've got one photo here in my Lightroom Classic, and this particular photo is a photo I took in South Carolina on Hilton Head Beach. And I've also got that photo, I've got 2 virtual copies of it, so we can kind of compare what I do to each one. So we'll keep this one as the original. I'm just gonna hit the right arrow key to take me over to the first virtual copy, which of course is identical. And let's go to the develop module. In the develop module, I would normally, and you've heard me say this for years, I would always say I start with auto. I click auto on every single photo, because I like the fact that it will start making adjustments for me. I don't always agree with them. Most times I don't agree with them, but at least it gets the process started and moves a bunch of sliders that in most cases are gonna be okay, and I just need to tweak a couple that aren't. So again, I'll hit auto. And it did exactly that. It made the photo a little brighter. So let's see, it warmed it up a little bit. It added some exposure. It didn't really do anything to contrast. It brought the highlights down. It brought the shadows up. It brought the whites up. It brought the blacks down. And it kind of left everything else alone. And that's what auto always did. So if I don't like something it did, these are all just sliders, I can say, you know what? No, make it a little bit brighter, but I'm going to undo that because I just want to keep it where auto did it. Now let's head over to the next. So that was already there. Let's head over to the next virtual copy. And on this virtual copy, I'm going to do the new thing, which is instead of me hitting auto, under profiles, there will be the standard Camera Raw profiles that we've always had and ones that even come from your camera. But you'll notice there's 2 new ones, adaptive color and adaptive black and white. These are brand new, and these use AI machine learning to look at your photo and make adjustments based on what it sees in your photo. So this is taking auto up to the next natural level. In other words, instead of just making global adjustments to kind of just make the overall photo look better, this is going to be a little bit more detailed. So that's the first thing. There's a second big bonus. So I just hit adaptive color, and it's admittedly not as bright as the other photo. Maybe it needs a little bit more than auto. But notice what it didn't do. It didn't touch your sliders. Your sliders are exactly where they were. So that gives you several benefits. Number 1, it's not going to screw up an edit you've already done. You can just hit an adaptive color profile and it will just apply it without touching a single slider you've already adjusted. Number 2, you do get to adjust all the sliders differently if you choose to. So this is again giving you a better foundation for that raw file that normally comes out of the camera looking pretty dull. All right, and lastly, you get a slider for it. So you can go ahead and bump it up and say, I like it, give me more of that. And again, it's not gonna make a drastic difference, but it's gonna make a difference. So here they are. Here's the one out of the camera, no adjustments. Here's the one with auto, and again, it moved a bunch of sliders. And here's the one with the adaptive color profile that didn't touch a single slider. So you can still go in and say, hey, I do want the exposure up a little bit more. Hey, I do want the shadows to be, maybe down a little bit, maybe make it a little bit more moody. Hey, I do want the blacks to come down some more, again, giving me more of that black detail or less of it in this case. And maybe I do want to add a little dehaze to it because I can, and auto doesn't touch dehaze anyway. So this does not affect what you did for adaptive color. They're two different things because profiles don't mess with your sliders. And even if I decide now to go to adaptive black and white, which is basically doing the same thing but just making it a black and white photo, again, it did it, but it didn't touch my sliders. It left my sliders exactly where they were. So I can experiment and get the best black and white, get the best color images using those adaptive profiles as a starting point or even as an ending point. You can choose it after the fact if you want. And get the best of both worlds. So that is number one, adaptive profiles in my top 7, color and black and white. Now let's go to number 2. This is a classic. Now, let me back up. Those adaptive profiles are across the ecosystem. So they're in Lightroom Classic, they're in Lightroom Desktop, they're in Lightroom Mobile, both iOS and Android. They're on Lightroom Web. Did I leave out anything? Oh, and they're in Adobe Camera Raw. So they're across the board, across all the places where you touch RAW files. And they only work on RAW files. So I will still be using auto for any image that's not a RAW file because I don't have a choice. Adaptive color doesn't work on non-RAW files. All right, so now let's go to number 2. Number 2 is a classic only feature because classic is the one that has catalogs. And I love that the team saw fit to give us the ability not only to go in your camera or catalog settings, but to go to the backups tab. And this is where you go and you do your normal backups. You choose where it's going to go, how often it does the backup and when. And now you start to see, hey, wait, there's 3 backups. The last one was done on this date and time. And here they are. Before, you wouldn't know how many backups you had until you went and checked the folder. And these backups, depending on the size of your catalog, take up a lot of space. So you're wasting hard drive space by keeping old backups that you're never going to return to. The point of a backup of your catalog is that if something screws up in your catalog, you can go back to that version. You don't want to go to a version 2 years ago because it doesn't have any of your new images. It doesn't have anything you've done for the last 2 years. So I would say back up often, but don't keep 20 backups. There's no reason to. Because if you need to go back that far, you got bigger problems. It's just that's just not usually going to be the case. So I normally keep 3. And again, even 3 is a stretch because how old is the third one? The third one was January 23rd this year, and we're now on February 14th. So that's not too far back. But guess what? Why would I go back to this January one if the February 12th and the February 2nd ones work? Or even the February 12th one. That's the one I really want to go to because that was the most recent. So if you want to get rid of your old backups, I'm going to throw away number 2, even though I normally keep 3 because I'm going to do another backup today. But I would just hit delete. And it's going to say, are you sure you want to delete that old catalog backup? Yes, I am. Because I don't need it anymore. I'm never going back that far if I have newer ones. And here's another nice bonus that it does. It warns you if your backup catalog is located on the same drive or volume as your catalog. So say, hey, you know what? The backups listed above, hey, you're storing them in the same place as your catalog. And the whole point of this is if your drive crashed, you want to be able to restore a backup. Well, guess what? If your drive crashed and your backups are on the same drive, that's not going to be a good day because the drive crashed and you not only lost your main catalog, but you lost your backups too. So highly, highly recommended that you always set this path to a different drive. Now I've got it set to a folder that syncs to my NAS, but honestly, I should probably change it to even an external drive or my NAS directly. So that way, if it crashed in between the time I did the backup and it synced, then I would still have it. Or I wouldn't have it because it crashed before the sync happened. So even in my case, I should probably change it. But just letting you know, hey, you probably shouldn't have those on the same drive, and that's a great thing. So that was number 2. And number 3 is actually kind of a fun one. We're going to go in and look at tethering example. So I'm going to go to tether capture, start tether capture. And I got this all set up already. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And that will take me to my camera. My Nikon Z8 is already attached. It's showing me the settings that it has set right now. And of course I can I can click the shutter button here, but most likely I'd be doing it right on the camera. I'd be clicking the shutter button right on the camera and they would be popping in right into Lightroom Classic. However, what's new is that if I go to my live view, and we can move this out of the way. Oh, move it out of the way over here. There we go. Move this out of the way. Oh, I see. Hey, if you took that shot that you were about to take by hitting the shutter button, that shot would be out of focus. So you notice that I can now click to focus. I didn't click and then hit a button. I just clicked and it immediately focused on that area. And I hear the little beeps on my camera letting me know that it's focusing on these spots. So I can go in and not only focus, but go ahead and take the shot as well. And that shot will come in instantly into Lightroom Classic in the background in this full 48, 49 megapixel RAW style. So I'm shooting that, and I can change my aperture. My aperture is all the way down to f2.8 on this lens, but if I wanted to go higher, I could. And I can do all of this control. And this is great for doing product shots because you can do it all from your computer to get the shots you want. And you'll know if those shots are in focus because you're focusing them right now. So I can go ahead and say, hey, let's go back down to f2.8. Let's do shoot more wide open. And let's go ahead and focus right on, oh, not there, here. Let's go ahead and focus right on the identification for this famous ship. And I can see that it's definitely in focus. And probably it's probably not going to give me that much of a shallow depth of field in this case, but some of the other stuff is not going to be as in focus because that's not what we're focusing on the live shoot here. So let's go down and focus on the smaller ship here, and we'll go ahead and shoot that one. And yeah, I can already see the windows of this one are more in focus than they were because that's where we're focusing our attention right now. And let's take another one. Let's go probably over here to the board cube and see how that one's kind of out of focus. And we'll go ahead and take that shot and look at how much more of that one's in focus. So this is great, again, for people doing those product shots or people shooting models or people shooting things that they don't want to necessarily be on the camera doing all the work. They want to do it right on the computer. They now can, thanks to the live view and being able to do your focus point selection right in the tether capture window. All right, so I'm going to close the tether capture session, and now my shots are all here. They're on the drive that I told them to save to, and I can just go ahead and toggle through them. I can see which ones are in focus, which ones aren't, or which ones have different focus points selected. There we go. So that was number 3. Now we're going to switch over to Lightroom Desktop. So that was Lightroom Classic, and this is a Lightroom Desktop exclusive, meaning this feature is, I shouldn't say exclusive, because it's a feature Lightroom Classic already had that's now made its way over to Lightroom Desktop. But for this release, it's exclusive, meaning this didn't, yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and pop over to Lightroom Desktop here. And I'm going to do something that I was not able to do before this week. I'm going to go up to my view menu. I'm going to come down to secondary window. I'm going to say the secondary window has a photo grid. And through the power of my editing, you can now see both of my monitors, and you can now see for the first time Lightroom Desktop, which Lightroom Classic already has, the ability to work with multiple displays, or 2 displays, I should say. So if you got an extra monitor sitting around, you can now go in and you can take advantage of that second monitor. And this is a great workflow for photographers because they can look at one display and they can say, hey, this photo looks interesting. They can click on that photo and then see that photo in edit detail on the other display. So they can quickly go back and forth looking at different photos, and you have some controls over here. So on this side, you can say, hey, I want to look at the traditional square grid, which I'm starting more and more not to like now that I see the other one on Lightroom Desktop. I kind of like the photo grid. I can't do the grid on both at the same time. So if I come over here and I go to grid, there we go. That's what it is. So can't do grid in both places, but you can do detail in both places apparently. So if I switch to detail here, yeah. So detail works in both places, but grid does not. And if I go to grid over here, and I switch to my favorite grid, then that's fine, but I can't then be on grid on this one because then it's going to switch that one to detail. Great. Okay. So that's the way it works. And you also have the ability to go in and I think you can even move this around. So this is undocked. You can position at the top. You can restore it to the bottom. Or I think if it's undocked, you can literally move it around. You can put it wherever you need it to be so it's not necessarily in your way. So I'd probably put it down in the corner. And that way I can quickly and easily go through a nice big thumbnail view. And by the way, you can control the thumbnail size here. So if you want big thumbnails or if you want smaller thumbnails, you can do that control right here. And then as you click on the different photos, you can see which ones you want to edit. So this is, again, great for people that are working with a dual monitor setup on their desktop, because now they'll have Lightroom desktop doing what we could always do in Lightroom Classic. Now we can do in both. Next up, this is also a Lightroom desktop kind of new thing that Classic kind of has, but I don't know that it has this. So let's see what we're talking about here. So I can, in Classic and Lightroom now, I can compare two photos. So I can go ahead and say, select these two, and I can go up to my view, and I can come down to, compare. Okay, so compare will show me both photos. And that's great. So that's kind of you can swap them. You can pick a different photo. Here, let's get out of that one. Here, let's go get that one. And not that one. So I pick different photos for my comparison, and that's great. Both Lightroom Desktop and Lightroom Classic do that. But what's new is if I select a photo, so let's just pick one of these. Let's pick that one. Notice that now I have a toggle at the top here that says multiple images or before and after. So if I do before and after, that will give me the same photo, that to collapse it. And now that I see my before and after, I can go in, and if I start making changes, for example, let's say I darken the exposure, I'm seeing the before on one side and the after on the other of the same photo. So I can go ahead and make all my adjustments and see one or the other, the before and the after of the photo that I just made changes to. So this is pretty cool to be able to do this right here on the spot. And again, you have a choice between multiple photos, two or more, or before and after. And of course, the before and after is going to show me, even down here, which one's the before. Down here, this is the before, this is the after, so it's showing me which one's which. And I can swap and say, to me that makes more sense. I want my before on the left side, or my after on the right side. And so I can go ahead and start doing these changes right here and seeing them in comparison to where I started. And that's a big thing too for editing. Being able to see that comparison of where you were instantly without having to undo or use a virtual copy or use a version or do any of that. You can instantly see it while you're editing. Hey, I thought that was a little too dark. Oh, I'm making it brighter or I'm making it darker. And I see it in comparison to the one that I thought was too bright or too dark. So that's before and after. Okay. Next up, we're going to switch to we're on number 6, which is on Lightroom Mobile. So on Lightroom Mobile, here I am, and I'm going to tap on a photo here. And I want to tap on this photo, it analyzed it real quick because I'm in the quick actions down the left-hand side there, that little magic wand icon. And it sees all the things about this image. It sees that it can do auto, it can do subject, select the subject meaning, it can select the background, it can select the sky because it sees a sky, but brand new, that last icon is fixed angle. And this building's kind of leaning like at a weird angle because I shot it, I think, from my car window. And I'm going to go ahead and tap fix angle, and it fixes it right there. So just fixing the angle is a toggle. Very similar to the auto upright that you have. And now that's in as one of your quick actions here on mobile. And of course, quick actions, if I do go into the edits here, and I go into profiles, There's adaptive color, so adaptive color is there to choose as well. And I can go ahead and make any other changes. Adaptive black and white, adaptive color are just on mobile as well. I just want to point that out. Okay, last but not least, we're going to pop over to number 7, which I'm going to show it to you in Photoshop because it's a Camera Raw thing. So when I go up to my file menu and open, and you can do this in Photoshop or Bridge, I'm going to open up a photo that I took also that same day at Hilton Head, and there's some people here. So first and foremost, let's do a little editing real quick. Let's do that adaptive color. Great. And actually, it looks pretty good the way it is, but I might go into, not detail, I want to go into effects. And in effects, I want to go in and maybe add a little dehaze to it. Great. And last but not least, I'll go ahead and just bump up the exposure just a little bit. And for color, we'll go ahead. It already warmed it up some. I'm going to warm it up a little bit more. Perfect. All right, so now, when you do a shot like this in public, chances are you're getting people. And the people are actually, I'm okay with the people in the shot, but what if I weren't? Like, I don't know these people, and really the people on the left look more like a distraction. The people on the right look okay. So in either case, this would normally be a trip to Photoshop, but this is my raw image, and I can now, for the first time, go into my remove tool with a raw image, and building upon that distraction removal we started with the last beta update or tech preview, window reflections, and now people. So if I click people, it will quickly identify the people in the shot, and I could remove this one, or I could remove these two. If I wanted to keep these two, I could say, nope, keep these, or delete these two selections, and just remove these. But I'm going to go ahead and let it remove all of them. So that's why usually people distractions, even in Photoshop, shows you what it's going to do first in case you want to make changes. So we'll go ahead and hit remove. And again, not because anything you do in Camera Raw is non-destructive. So even though it's removing these people, I can always come back and just restore them if I want. So the people are gone, and I can then either continue to open up this photo in Photoshop and keep working on it, or I can say I'm done, and it will just apply that to the metadata of this photo. So the next time I open it up, those people will still be gone. So if I go ahead and say open it, it's now open in Photoshop, and the people are gone because this is now a copy of it in Photoshop because the raw, it can't be edited. It can't be edited directly, or destructively, which is what Photoshop could do. But there it is. So my people are gone in this shot like they were never there. So people distractions are becoming less and less of a thing now in our photography, thanks to the magic of removing people distractions. So that's it. Those are my top 7 features introduced this week across the Photoshop, or I should say, Lightroom ecosystem and Camera Raw ecosystem. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking and probably going to ask, and hey, when will we see these features like the removal of window reflections and the removal of people in Lightroom directly or in Lightroom Classic directly? They're working on it. That's all I can say. I can't give you a timeline. Just let you know it is being worked on. All right, so with that said, cheers everyone. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And also, here's a video for you to check out. I think that you'll like. And from there, cheers everyone. Catch you on the next one. Bye everybody.